Have you ever wondered if the people around you are really who they say they are? Or perhaps you felt deceived by someone who seemed like the best friend or partner, but deep down, they were just a facade. Today, I'm going to reveal 7 crucial signs that show whether someone in your life is real or just pretending. And believe me, you might be ignoring these signs without even realizing it. With every detail you uncover, it will become clearer whether this person is truly by your side or just wants something from you. And most importantly, don't ignore these signs because they could be the key to protecting your heart and relationships. Stay with me until the end, because I guarantee you'll discover some truths that may change the way you deal with the people in your life. Ready to find out? Let's get started. Have you ever noticed when someone enters your life and starts insisting on how much you have in common? They speak so enthusiastically about the same likes, opinions, and even the same types of experiences you've had. At first, it might seem like you really have a special connection, almost like the beginning of a deep friendship or relationship. The problem is, when this is excessive, it could be a sign that the person isn't being genuine. Fake people in relationships tend to exaggerate these similarities, doing so in a way that convinces you that you have everything in common, when in reality, they're just trying to please you and create an artificial bond. This strategy of forcing the idea of common ground isn't just about interests or hobbies. It can even involve your opinions and views on life. They may start expressing their ideas about important topics like politics, religion, or even life philosophy in a way that seems to perfectly align with yours, all to create an illusion that you are soulmates in terms of thoughts and feelings. The problem is, over time, this false similarity fades away. When you start having deeper discussions or encounter differing opinions, these people often don't know how to react because their connection with you is never real. The search for common ground became a form of manipulation to get you to trust them more quickly. This behavior can also affect the dynamic of the relationship, as instead of a genuine exchange of ideas and feelings, the person pretends to be something they're not to fit into your world. And this can be extremely frustrating because you end up emotionally invested, thinking you've found someone you can really connect with, only to realize that all they were doing was creating a facade that can't be sustained. The best way to deal with this is to pay attention to the details. It's not enough to immediately accept all the superficial similarities someone presents. In a healthy relationship, differences also have room to flourish, and people can accept each other as they are, without the need to force a perfect fit. This insistence on common ground may be a disguised form of manipulation, where trust is gained quickly, but it's extremely fragile because it was never built authentically. Have you ever realized that, all of a sudden, someone starts agreeing with everything you say, without even questioning or offering their own opinion? This may seem flattering at first, but in reality, it's one of the most common tactics used by fake people in relationships. They do this to avoid conflict and please you all the time, without considering that a genuine opinion and a healthy conversation involve disagreements and even debates. When someone agrees with everything, it's hard to know if they truly share your opinion or if they're just trying to avoid friction. In authentic relationships, differences in opinion are not only inevitable, but also healthy. They allow people to get to know each other more deeply, resolve conflicts, and strengthen the bond by working together to find solutions or respecting differences. However, someone who agrees with everything isn't showing their true self. They're putting themselves in a position of pleasing you without really engaging in the conversation. It's as if they're more concerned with keeping up appearances than building a real relationship. This behavior is also a way to avoid any kind of confrontation, which can create a sense of a perfect relationship, but it's superficial. Over time, it can be exhausting to realize you're dealing with someone who never really shows up. They may seem very understanding and friendly, but the lack of their own perspective can create an emotional void. This can make you feel more alone because there's no one to debate ideas with or learn something new. Also, someone who always agrees may be doing it to manipulate the situation, trying to please you to gain some personal benefit, without ever exposing themselves or showing vulnerability. In healthy relationships, it's important that each person has the space and freedom to express their own opinions and feelings, even if that means disagreeing once in a while. Conflict, when treated with respect, is an opportunity to grow together and reach a deeper understanding of each other. If you notice that someone is always avoiding any kind of disagreement, this might be a sign that they're more focused on maintaining superficial peace than on building a true connection. Sometimes you hear someone say something, but their body speaks a completely different language, right? They may be saying one thing, but the signals their body is sending, like facial expressions, gestures, or posture, don't match the words at all. This is one of the biggest red flags when it comes to detecting falseness in relationships. Imagine someone telling you, "I'm happy for you," but at the same time, their face is closed off or they're avoiding eye contact. Or someone says, "I care a lot about you," but their actions show the complete opposite, like not being willing to support you when you really need it. These are examples of how words and body language can be in conflict. Fake people might use kind words, but their body language ends up giving away their true intentions. This happens because, while words can be easily manipulated and said in a calculated way, the body is much harder to hide. It reveals the truth in a way that, often, the person doesn't even realize. This behavior is typical of someone trying to project an image of care or friendship, but in reality, they're not genuinely interested. They may even try to appear empathetic, but if you pay attention to how they behave, how they withdraw or seem uncomfortable in certain situations, you might start to notice that their concern isn't real. The body speaks volumes about the internal emotions a person is feeling, and when words don't match that, the disconnect becomes obvious. Furthermore, the discrepancy between what's said and what's shown can create a sense of distrust, because it becomes hard to believe what the person is saying when their body language is sending such different signals. In a true relationship, words and actions align. If someone tells you something, you feel it reflected in how they act with you and in their behavior over time. When there's this inconsistency, it creates a lack of coherence that can even make you question the person's intentions. For example, if someone is always saying how important you are to them, but never has time to listen to you or do something meaningful for you, that's a clear sign of a disconnect between what they say and what they do. When a person's behavior doesn't align with their words, you begin to question the sincerity of their statements. In a healthy relationship, trust is the foundation, something that easily breaks when words and body language aren't in sync. Have you noticed how some people avoid talking about deeper and more personal topics, like feelings, fears, or significant life experiences? They may change the subject or steer the conversation away whenever it starts getting more intimate or emotional. This is a classic sign of falseness, especially in relationships, because in a true bond, it's natural to want to share and explore these deeper aspects of life. When someone avoids more genuine and meaningful conversations, it could reflect that they don't want to expose themselves, or perhaps even fear that something they reveal could be used against them. Fake people in relationships often seek to keep interactions at a superficial level where everything seems fine, without the need to truly connect or open their hearts. This creates an emotional barrier, where the person is more concerned with maintaining an image than forming a genuine and vulnerable relationship. In an authentic relationship, deep conversations are a vital part of getting to know someone and understanding what truly matters to them. When someone refuses or avoids this type of conversation, it's a sign they may not be as invested in making a real connection. If this happens repeatedly, it may indicate that they're not willing to commit or show vulnerability, which is essential for a healthy relationship. Fake people often change the details of their stories over time, which can be a sign of dishonesty. They might tell a different version to each person or alter facts as the story is told. This creates distrust in relationships because consistency is key to trust. If someone always has conflicting versions of events or omits important details, it could indicate they are trying to manipulate the way you perceive them, damaging the foundation of the relationship. Fake people often give rehearsed and predictable responses, as if they're just repeating something without genuinely engaging in the conversation. This shows a lack of authenticity and real interest. In a true relationship, responses are more spontaneous and personal, reflecting a real connection. When someone always answers in an automated way, it could indicate that they're not invested in the relationship or in truly opening up. Have you ever noticed when someone gives you such exaggerated or forced compliments that it feels uncomfortable? They say things like, "You're amazing," or "I've never met anyone as wonderful as you," in such an intense way that it seems like they're trying to convince you, or even themselves, of something. This kind of compliment is often used by fake people to flatter and gain your trust. By overdoing the praise, they try to create the impression that they care deeply or think you're perfect. But the problem is, the compliments seem artificial and aren't coming from a genuine place. In authentic relationships, compliments come naturally and are based on a true appreciation of the person's qualities. They're specific and given at the right moment, without the need for exaggeration or force. When compliments are over the top, it raises a red flag because the words don't match the energy or depth you'd normally expect from a genuine relationship. It can feel like the person is trying too hard to please or create an image of themselves that doesn't match reality. Moreover, forced compliments can be a form of manipulation. When someone constantly exaggerates their praise, they may be trying to get something in return, like your trust or favor. This makes the compliment less about you and more about what the person wants to gain. In healthy relationships, the focus should be on genuine and respectful exchanges, not attempts to manipulate the other with empty words. Have you noticed when someone only approaches you when they need something, then disappears when there's nothing left to gain? This is typical of fake people who engage in relationships for selfish reasons. They're not looking for a real connection, but for something they can take from you. This behavior is very evident in relationships where the person only shows up when they need help, favors, or some specific benefit, and then vanishes once that interest is gone. These interactions are essentially transactional because they're not based on a genuine desire to be with you or build an emotional bond. The person is just acting based on what they can get from the situation. In true relationships, support and companionship are mutual, without expecting anything in return. But in relationships with fake people, you might notice that every time there's something to gain, they show up with a smile and kind words, but when there's nothing left to offer, they disappear. This can be emotionally draining because you start wondering if you really matter to that person, or if you're just a pawn in their game. You don't feel the emotional reciprocity that should be present, which can lead to frustration and loneliness. Transactional relationships lack depth and don't offer the emotional support essential for any healthy connection. The relationship becomes cold, centered around utility and self-interest, rather than true friendship or emotional bonding. Have you noticed that some people seem to give you their full attention when you're the only option available, but as soon as someone more interesting or advantageous comes along, they quickly shift focus? This kind of behavior is a clear sign of falseness. These people give their attention conditionally, depending on what they can gain from the situation. They're not genuinely interested in you, but in how they can benefit from your company or the situation they're in. In healthy relationships, attention and affection are constant and based on mutual respect and consideration. You feel valued, regardless of who else is around. However, someone with shifting attention will alternate between showing complete interest and withdrawing depending on the situation, creating a sense of insecurity and inconsistency. You feel used and undervalued because the person isn't truly invested in the relationship. They're just seeking what's convenient in the moment. Moreover, this can leave you feeling neglected. When you realize that someone's attention is only available when there's a benefit involved, it's easy to feel like a second choice. The lack of emotional consistency can be exhausting, and you start doubting their intentions. Deep down, they may just be using you to fill a void or achieve a goal, rather than genuinely wanting to be by your side. In a genuine relationship, attention should be unconditional and consistent, regardless of other circumstances. If someone is constantly shifting their focus to whoever seems more advantageous or interesting, it's a sign their intentions aren't as pure as they seem. Fake people often say one thing, but show the opposite with their actions. They might promise to always be there for you or support you, but when you need them, they disappear or fail to follow through. This erodes trust in a relationship because empty words without genuine actions create insecurity and doubt. In a real relationship, what's said should be reflected in the actions. If someone constantly says one thing but does another, it's a clear sign their intentions aren't sincere. You know when someone seems perfect at first, but over time you start to notice something feels off? This happens when a person tries to be someone they're not, or creates an idealized version of themselves to please others. Initially, they might seem charming, but as the relationship deepens, you begin to notice inconsistencies between what they say and who they truly are. This behavior is a clear sign of falseness because the person isn't being authentic. In a real relationship, people are open and honest about who they are, with all their strengths and flaws. There's no need to put on a facade or hide their true essence. But when someone is trying to maintain an idealized image, you start to feel like something is superficial in the relationship. It makes it hard to build trust because you start questioning the true nature of that person. A lack of authenticity can show up in actions that feel exaggerated or disconnected from reality, as if the person is playing a role. Over time, these false impressions start to unravel, leaving a void because you're not connecting with the real person, but with a version of them they've built. This undermines any chance of a deep connection. In a healthy relationship, authenticity is what creates strong and real bonds. If someone isn't willing to be genuine with themselves or with you, it could be a clear sign that the relationship doesn't have a solid foundation. Have you ever met someone who, right from the start, tries to point out all the similarities between you? Maybe they start talking about how you both like the same movies, have the same opinions on certain topics, or even share similar life stories. While it's natural to find similarities with those we connect with, when someone makes a point of exaggerating this, it can be a sign that they're trying to gain your trust in a superficial way. They might be trying to establish a quick and easy connection without really investing in a deeper relationship. This behavior is a trick to create the impression of affinity without a real interest in connecting authentically. The person focuses on the similarities because they believe it will make you accept them more easily. However, in true relationships, the connection comes from genuine growth, where you get to know and respect each other for who you really are, including your differences. When someone insists too much on having everything in common, it could be a sign they're trying to control how you perceive them. This person may be more concerned with being accepted than with developing a true relationship, and this can create a sense of disconnection over time. In a healthy relationship, similarities emerge naturally, but there's also room for differences that enrich the interaction. If someone only focuses on the similarities, it could be a sign that they're more interested in impressing you than in being true to themselves and to you. So, what do you think of these signs of falseness? Have you noticed any of these behaviors in someone in your life? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you've ever experienced something like this. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share it with anyone you think could benefit from these tips. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss any content on relationships and how to build genuine connections. Remember, the best relationships are based on honesty and trust, and we're here to help you find that in every aspect of your life. See you in the next video.